I want to talk about headphone upgrade paths. Now, if you're asking what an upgrade path is, it basically is trying to find headphones of a similar sound signature to something that you already like, just a little bit better. Now, this is in some cases very easy to do, and then in some cases there are headphones that are so unique that it's actually really difficult to do. Now, I want to tackle some of the easier ones today where people can kind of put these in the back of their heads for something that they might want to get down the road and start looking at reviews for, because reviews are going to play a big part in this sort of finding out of which headphones are the ones to go for. Now, I'm also curious, because I'm only going to be naming a few headphones here and a few different types of sound signatures. What would you break your headphone like upgrade path down like? I want to hear about the ones that you've already done, like what were your choices and why, and then I want to hear ones that maybe you plan for in the future, or conceptual ones that you've just come up with. I'm curious what people will come up with, because it might give me some ideas. Now, to start this off, I actually want to give you a recommendation if you are new to start with a bunch of different used headphones to find a sound signature that you like. I really want you to explore around here, and I want you to buy used instead of new, because a lot of times if you buy them at a good price, you can sell them at that same price. So you don't really lose any money, but you get to try a bunch of different stuff. So let's start with one of the more popular, easier ones, which is the HD6XX from Drop and Sennheiser. This is a very kind of mid-range forward headphone. It doesn't have a ton of sub-bass response. It doesn't have a ton of treble response. So it's got sort of this vocal focused performance, right? It's very famous for having this vocal focus, and it's very good for having that vocal focus. One of the best headphones, even at higher prices. It's very, very good. But if you want a path that does sort of similar things at higher prices, that also starts introducing either better versions of that mid-range focus, or that mid-range focus plus some extra stuff to be like an overall upgrade, I would look at something like an Alex. Then I might look at something like an LCD-X, and then I might look at something like a Diana V2. Now, these headphones are all going to have better and better characteristics in other areas. Some of it is build quality related, some of it is sound quality related, some of it is a slightly different take on mid-range, but still very mid-range focused, like the Diana V2. It's not the most treble forward Diana or the most bass forward Diana, but it's got this really excellent, sort of weird, but very good, very unique mid-range response. And that's why I consider it like the pinnacle upgrade to something like a HD6XX, while still sort of maintaining that kind of generalistic sound signature. The Alex and LCD-X are just very good options for upgrades. The Alex maintains a very, very warm sound signature, and it's very good for vocalists, but starts introducing better things like better sound staging and better comfort and build quality. The LCD-X is a lot heavier and a lot bigger of a headphone, and it's a little bit more neutral than the 6XX or the Alex is. Not quite as warm, but you still get a very forward mid-range, and it's, in my opinion, excellent for vocalists, especially the latest iterations of it. Now for bass, a lot of people are probably starting with something like Beats or Philips X2 HRs. Lucky for you, there's a ton of options in the market, but I chose some headphones that have really good characteristics outside of bass, while maintaining like the same or better bass quality. In all these circumstances, better. I would actually look at something like a Modhouse Argon. So this is made by a guy named Ryan, who's actually a personal friend, but they're very good headphones. They are very, very bass focused, but they start introducing things like sound staging, and the bass response is very unique. It hits a little bit differently. It's got this very solid nature that even things like the X2 HR can't quite copy that solidification of that bass response. It's very good. Then something like an Aeon Noir is going to start introducing very good build quality into that. It's going to be a little bit V-shaped, but so is the X2 HR, so you should be familiar there. And at $800, it's got sort of a unique bass shelf for its price range. Now, if you want to go top of the line with bass, the best bass I've ever heard come out of a headphone, it's either the AB1266 or the LCD4, but I'd probably give the edge to the LCD4. The 1266 has great sonic characteristics to the bass, and it sounds very, very unique, but it doesn't have the absolute slam power that the LCD4 has. The LCD4 hits you like a truck with its bass response in a very good way. It's very clean still. It is very clear, but it's just deliciously strong bass. It's awesome. Now, if you have a neutral headphone like an SHP 9600 that has decent bass response, has decent sound staging, decent treble response, mid-range performance, especially for the like $70-something price tag, there's a lot of options that you have for upgrades, but maybe not so many that are really worth it. Something like an HD 660S is very, very good. And is going to be very similar to that, but just better in almost every category. But it's also going to cost like $400 to $500 depending on when and where you get it. Something like a Focal Clear MG will be a little bit more on the neutral side. The OG, the original Focal Clear, which I actually like a little bit more, is a little bit more warmer leaning, but the MG is a pretty neutral, fair, balanced headphone, but it does cost more than the 9600 or the 660S. And then from there, you do have like really upper end things like the Focal Utopia, for example. Very neutral tuning. It's not too exciting in any particular direction, and that's perfectly fine. Everybody has their own preferences. But yeah, if you're looking for an upgrade path, sort of on the more neutral side, that's kind of where I would go. Now, if you're looking for more unique things like sound staging, you could start as low as like cost KSC 75s and get pretty good sound staging and have this really kind of unique open performance that not too many headphones at that price range have. And then for a while, you have Hyphemans that really stand out as being very good for sound staging, starting with something like the Sundara, then going to something like the Edition XS, then going to something like the Aria. All of those headphones have like increasingly better and better sound staging performance. They may not have characteristics in other areas of sound that you like so much, but if we're talking about sound staging here, they are upgrades for sound staging capability. And if you're new, sound staging capability is like basically how wide the outer atmosphere of sound can sound like. And then the imaging specificity within that sound staging is very important, being able to kind of create smaller and smaller and tighter, more finite balls of placement of sounds. That characteristic, that capability gets better with a lot of these headphones. One of the best headphones at it, and one of the most expensive, is HD 800S. This is an undeniably good sound staging headphone despite its flaws in its other areas, but if you're looking for sound staging alone, it is one of the best even till today. Even though it's an older design, it's still one of, if not the best sound staging headphone. Then again, crazy option like we've been talking about, AB1266. This doesn't have as wide of a total sound stage as the HD 800S does, but it is way better within the field that it gives than the HD 800S is. It is a lot more finite for placement. It has a much better vocal presentation than the 800S does. And vocals seem really, really full, and that actually sells the effect of a center vocalist in background instruments better than even the HD 800S is. So if I were to say sound staging width is like a 10 out of 10 for the 800S, it's maybe like an 8 or a 9 for the 1266. But if we're talking about sound staging quality and imaging quality, if the 800S is like a 7, the AB1266 is like a 10. And then for studio use, the at-home studio users are probably going to want to explore a little bit of different studio headphones as you make your way up before you like really solidify what you like your sound to sound like. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, early on, they come across something called an Audio-Technica M50X. I think this is a terrible studio headphone personally, but everybody has their own preferences. A lot of people have these. I think it's worth upgrading. I would look at something like the HD6XX or HD650 as a open back studio option. HD650 specifically have been around for decades and have been in studios for decades, and for good reason. They sound phenomenal for music production or kind of voice monitoring, anything like that. They are really, really good for the price. Then something like a DT1990 from Beyerdynamic, I think is going to be an awesome, again, open back option. I would really, if you can afford the quiet outer environment that you need for open back headphones, I would stick with open back headphones. They're going to sound a lot more realistic and natural and give you a lot more information than I think a lot of close back headphones will, especially for studio use. And then we're going to call back again to that LCDX that is kind of designed to be used in studio. It is listed as a high-end studio headphone because of its efficiency, its build characteristics. It's designed to be kind of tough, and the sound characteristics are very, very good for applications like monitoring and music production. If you're going to be spending a lot more money than that, I would start looking at studio monitors, speakers like Genelec, for example. Like if you're getting into that $3,000 to $6,000 range where it's like really crazy, I would definitely start looking at speakers instead of headphones for music production specifically. So like I said, I only wanted to cover some basic options here to give some beginners some like kind of directionality for what the sort of path of upgrades might look like depending on the sound signatures that they like. I'd love to see what you have come up with for your own upgrade path and maybe what you plan to upgrade to in the future. I'd love to get some ideas there personally for videos. I think it'd be really fun to kind of explore this a little bit more. So I'll see you guys down in the comments. Thank you a lot for watching. Again, my name is Josh. See you guys next time. Bye.